My son shattered me at my wife's funeral, not with his hands, but with his words. 50 people stood there as I broke apart inside.
Don't expect a cent from Mom's 92 million, Dad. You're just the failure who couldn't save her.
That word echoed in my head like a verdict. It came from the boy I'd loved more than my own life, the boy I'd raised, protected, and sacrificed everything for. People murmured, staring. I stood there in my $15 thrift store suit, realizing my own son had buried me beside his mother. But Ethan had no clue what awaited him in that lawyer's office 3 days later. No idea about the envelope that would rewrite his idea of worth, money, and inheritance. He thought he understood value, but he was about to learn he knew nothing. What came next would leave everyone speechless. Let me tell you how it began, how the son of a marriage counselor lost sight of love chasing wealth. Ethan wasn't always this way. When he was young, we were close. I was an adjunct professor making $32,000 a year teaching American history at Denver Community College. We lived in a small rental on Maple Street, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, and a refrigerator that groaned like it was dying. Margaret worked part-time at a dental clinic. Ethan wore hand-me-downs from his cousin Daniel and carried peanut butter sandwiches to school in reused brown bags. But we were happy. Friday nights were pizza and Monopoly. Saturdays meant hiking the mountains, our version of entertainment that didn't cost a thing. Sundays were pancakes and church, where Ethan sang in the children's choir with a voice that could melt stone. He was bright, too bright. Gifted, his teachers said. Top percentile on every test. A full scholarship to Northwestern for business school, a blessing that spared us a lifetime of debt. College changed him. Slowly. Freshman year, he called every Sunday, told us about his classes, his roommate, the terrible dining hall food. He was still our Ethan, grateful, full of energy. But by sophomore year, the calls came less often. Junior year, barely at all. Dad, I'm swamped with networking events, he'd say. Claire's family's hosting a yacht party, these connections could change my entire future. Claire Donovan. Pharmaceutical dynasty. Private jets. Old money, the kind that doesn't just buy things, it buys power. Ethan graduated summa cum laude in 2018, landing a job at Langston & Associates, Chicago's largest marketing firm. Starting salary, $120,000, more than Margaret and I earned combined. Then the call came. Dad, you won't believe this. I just closed a $15 million deal, my commission's more than you make in 5 years. I smiled, proud. That's incredible, son. Your mother and I couldn't be happier. He hesitated. Yeah, about that. I'm bringing someone home for Christmas. Claire Donovan. Her family owns pharmaceutical companies all over the Midwest. This means a lot, Dad. Claire was poised, graceful, educated, the kind of woman who spoke 3 languages and always knew which fork to use. But the way she looked around our little house, it wasn't cruel, exactly, more like she was observing something foreign. At dinner, Ethan kept apologizing. Sorry about the plates, Claire. Dad's still using the old ones. Sorry about the heat, Professor's salary. Sorry about the boxed wine. It's not that bad though. Each sorry was a knife twist. Claire smiled politely, but I caught her texting under the table, probably telling her friends about the adorably humble professor family. After they left, Margaret sat silent. He's ashamed of us, she said quietly. He's just trying to impress her, I replied. Henry, he called you a part-time teacher to her parents. She was right. And things only got worse from there. The calls turned obligatory. Christmas visits got shorter. And each time, he came with Claire, full of subtle apologies for our simplicity, as if he'd soon rise above it all. Then, life struck. March 2019. A routine mammogram. Then a biopsy. Then the words that changed everything. I'm sorry. It's cancer. Stage 3 breast cancer. Aggressive, but treatable, with the right care. The oncologist was Dr. Adrian Wolf, young, confident, wearing an expensive watch that gleamed under the clinic lights. The treatment plan will be aggressive, he said, spreading X-rays like playing cards. Surgery, chemo, radiation. Success rates excellent, if you can stay on schedule. Out of pocket? Around $40,000. Manageable for most families. Manageable. For most families. We had $800 in savings. We lived paycheck to paycheck, one bill away from collapse. That night, I called Ethan. "Dad, that's terrible. How can I help?" he said, and relief flooded me. "We'll need about $20,000 over the next year," I told him. Silence. Then faint restaurant noise, glasses clinking. "Dad, I just bought a condo. Claire and I are planning the wedding. Money's tight right now." "Tight? You make 6 figures." "I know, but you have insurance, right? It should cover most." "Only 60%. Then maybe take a loan against the house." "We rent, Ethan. We've rented for 12 years. Maybe a second job. Do DoorDash or Uber. People do that now. A second job, to save his mother's life." "Ethan," I said, "this isn't about extra income. This is about survival." He sighed. "I can't just ask Claire's family for money. They have expectations about stability." Expectations. While his mother fought for her life, he worried about appearances. "Forget I asked," I whispered. "Dad, don't be like that. Maybe after the wedding." But she didn't have after the wedding. I started taking out credit cards. Payday loans. Cashed out my retirement. Still not enough. So I picked up a second job cleaning offices for Minutemen Janitorial. Then a third, stocking shelves from 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. 20-hour workdays. No sleep. No breaks. Then came the humiliation. Ethan called 2 days after Claire's mother saw me mopping floors at her country club. "Dad, this is humiliating. Claire's family is asking questions. Why are you doing janitorial work?" "To pay for your mother's treatment. But it reflects badly on me. Claire's father is considering me for promotion. Family and service jobs sends the wrong message." "Service jobs?" I repeated. "That's what I am to you now. Maybe Mom could go to a county hospital. Cancer treatment's cancer treatment, right? Ethan, Dr. Wolf is one of the best oncologists in Colorado. We're not gambling with her life." "Dad, you have to be practical. You're destroying your health, your credit, for what? Maybe an extra year." An extra year. That's what he called it. That was the day I realized my son wasn't ashamed of our poverty, he was ashamed of our love. 8 months later, the call came that ended it all. November 2020. I was grading papers in my studio apartment, the one I moved to after we lost our home to medical debt. Concrete walls. A Murphy bed. Rent, $450 a month. My phone rang at 11:47 p.m. "Dad, we need to talk." His voice was firm. Cold. "What's wrong?" "Nothing. Everything's finally right. Claire and I got engaged tonight. Dinner at Le Bernardin. Tiffany ring. Photographer. Perfect night. Congratulations, son." "Are you?" he asked sharply. Because Claire's parents have questions about the wedding guest list. "What kind of questions?" "About why Mom's ex-husband would be invited." "Ex-husband?" "Ethan, your mother and I are separated, not divorced. It's the same thing. Dad, you haven't lived together in almost 2 years. Mom's with Dr. Wolf now. They're talking about getting married. It's time to accept the new reality. New reality? I asked. Like our 24-year marriage was just an outdated app ready to be deleted? Dad, this isn't about that. Claire's family, they move in a certain world. Her father owns pharmaceutical companies in 6 states. Her uncle's a federal judge. These aren't people who understand messy family histories. What's messy about caring for the woman I spent half my life with? What's messy about love? What's messy, he said, is that you won't let go. Mom's moved on. She's with someone who can actually provide for her. Someone successful, respected, stable. You keep calling the hospital, sending cards, acting like you're still part of her life. Still part of her life, I repeated softly. Like 24 years could just vanish with a legal signature. Dad, I'm asking you to stop. It's confusing for everyone. He paused, the faint clatter of dishes and laughter in the background, probably another dinner at some high-end restaurant. Dad, listen, he continued. Mom's with a surgeon now. I'm engaged to a Donovan. We're both part of something bigger. We're building real, professional lives. You're not part of that anymore. Your part in this story is over. The words hit me like a punch. Your part in this story is over. What does that mean exactly? It means you did what you could for as long as you could. But Mom deserves more than what a part-time teacher can give. And I deserve more than explaining why my father scrubs floors for a living. I clean floors, I said quietly, because it paid for your mother's chemotherapy. I know, he sighed. It's noble, I guess. But also kind of pathetic. Pathetic. My son called love pathetic. Ethan, I said, my throat tightening, I'm trying to remind you of who you are. Dad, I'm trying to help you. Dr. Wolf has connections. Maybe he could get you a teaching job somewhere else, Kansas, Nebraska, somewhere you can start over. Build something new. Somewhere else, I said. You want me to leave Denver? I want you to want what's best for everyone. For Mom, that means being with someone who can take care of her. For me, it means not having to dodge awkward questions about my family background. For you, it means moving on. I looked around my one-room apartment, the same one I'd moved into after losing everything to save the woman I loved, and listened as my own son explained why my absence would make his life easier. Ethan, I said quietly, do you remember when you were 8? You broke your arm falling off your bike. Dad, don't. Do you remember who sat in that emergency room with you for 6 hours? Who missed 3 days of work to take you to physical therapy? That's not the same. Do you remember who helped you fill out your college applications? Who drove through a blizzard to bring you soup when you were sick your sophomore year? Who taught you to drive? Who stayed up all night when Lila Bennett broke your heart? He sighed. You're being manipulative. No, I said. I'm being honest. I'm your father. That doesn't expire because you're embarrassed by my pay stub. You're not just my father anymore, he said. You're my father who mops floors. Who lives in a studio apartment. The one people whisper about out of pity. There it was, the truth he'd been dancing around. So what is it you want from me, son? I want you to disappear. Quietly. With dignity. Find someone your own age, your own class. Start fresh somewhere no one knows you. And if I don't? Then you'll learn what it means to have no family at all. Silence filled the line. I heard Claire's voice faintly, is everything okay? And Ethan's quiet reply, yeah. I told him. It was rehearsed, every word. Probably practiced with the Donovans over champagne. A family meeting about how to cut me out cleanly. Ethan. Yeah, Dad. I want you to remember this call. Every word. Because one day, when you're older, when life humbles you, you'll realize what you just threw away. What's that supposed to mean? It means love isn't something you can buy back once you've sold it. I hung up. For an hour, I sat staring at old photo albums. Ethan's first steps. His high school graduation. The day he got into Northwestern. His first big promotion call. In every picture, we were smiling, father and son, proud and whole. How did we get here? But that call wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. The call that changed everything came 3 months later, 3:17 a.m., February 14, 2021. Valentine's Day. Life has a cruel sense of irony. Mr. Caldwell, said a woman's voice. This is Dr. Emily Hartman from Memorial Hospital. Your wife has taken a turn for the worse. Ex-wife, I corrected automatically, then immediately regretted it. Is she? She's still listed as your emergency contact. The cancer spread to her liver and lungs. We need to discuss treatment options right away. 15 minutes later I was in my old Honda, the one I'd bought for $800 after selling my car for her medical bills, racing through the empty Denver streets. Hospitals at 3 a.m. are different worlds, quiet, heavy, filled with people who've stopped pretending time is on their side. Room 314 smelled of antiseptic and exhaustion. Margaret lay there, smaller, frilier, her skin translucent in the monitor's glow. Henry, she whispered. You came. Of course I did. I called Adrian first, she rasped. He said he'd come in the morning. Big surgery. Of course he did. I'm here now, I said softly. Dr. Hartman appeared in the doorway, face drawn with years of giving bad news. Mr. Caldwell, the situation's serious. The cancer's spread aggressively. There's an experimental treatment at Johns Hopkins, an immunotherapy trial showing promise. But it's costly, and insurance may not cover it. How much? $400,000 over 6 months. Insurance might handle 30%. $400,000. I made $16,000 a year after losing 2 of my 3 jobs. My savings were gone. My credit was gone. My hope was almost gone. Do it, I said. Sir, maybe we should wait for Dr. Wolf. As her partner. He's not here, I interrupted. I am. Margaret squeezed my hand, weak, trembling, but still warm. Over the next week, I saw who Dr. Wolf really was. The charming surgeon turned ghost when no cameras were around. He visited twice, both times during office hours, both times more interested in charts than in Margaret. I slept in that hospital chair. Ate cafeteria food. Showered in the visitor bathroom. The nurses stopped questioning me. They could spot real devotion when they saw it. On February 20th, Dr. Wolf met me in the cafeteria. Henry, we need to be realistic. About what? The treatment's odds are 30%, and it'll cost nearly $500,000. Maybe it's time to focus on comfort care. Comfort care, I repeated. You mean give up? I mean be practical. You've already destroyed your finances once for treatments that bought her 18 months. Do you really want to do it again? If it saves her life, yes. He sighed. Look at yourself, Henry. You're broke, exhausted, living alone in a box. Is this how you want to spend the rest of your years? My years? I said. This isn't about me. Everything's about someone, he replied coldly. And she chose me. That night, I sat beside Margaret's bed as she slept. Machines hummed like distant lullabies. At 4 a.m., her eyes fluttered open. Henry, you're still here. Always, I said. She smiled faintly. Why? And in that single word, why, was everything. Because I love you. Tears welled in her eyes, rolling down her cheeks. Adrian says the new treatment is too dangerous, too expensive. What do you think? I think I still have fight left in me. Then we fight, I said softly. And I'm not leaving, Margaret. Not until you ask me to. She was quiet for a long time, staring past me as if weighing her own soul. I was wrong, Henry. About everything. I thought money could buy happiness. That status could keep me safe from pain. You don't have to explain. Yes, I do. You need to know why I made my choices, and why I'm about to make new ones. What came next shattered everything I believed about the last 2 years. It began with a call from Robert Langston, Margaret's estate lawyer, 3 days after Dr. Wolf's so-called realistic talk about letting her die peacefully. Mr. Caldwell, we need to discuss your wife's finances, in private. It's urgent. Ex-wife, I corrected automatically. Shouldn't you be speaking to Dr. Wolf? He's been handling her accounts. That's exactly why we need to talk. We met later that day at a Starbucks near the hospital. Robert looked like a man fresh off a corporate brochure, silver hair, perfect suit, but eyes carrying bad news. Henry, how much do you actually know about your wife's money? She's broke, I said. Every cent went into her treatments. He opened a folder. That's not entirely true. What do you mean? Margaret owns 40% of Caldwell Medical Holdings, a trust her father created in 1987, 6 months before his death. It's paid her dividends for 34 years. I stared at him, stunned. She never mentioned a trust fund. She didn't see the money. For the last 18 months, every dividend's been routed to an account managed by someone else. Who? Dr. Adrian Wolf. He's held financial power of attorney since she moved in with him. The cafe suddenly felt too warm, the air too thin. How much are we talking about? After decades of compound interest and property growth, roughly $92 million. $92 million. The same number Ethan had bragged about inheriting someday. But it wasn't a future inheritance, it was money that already belonged to his mother. Is that even legal? The authorization's real. She signed it herself. But there are irregularities. He pushed papers toward me, bank statements, transfers, investments, all showing one pattern: Wolf had been moving her money into his own accounts. And there's a life insurance policy, Robert added. What policy? $50 million. Taken out 6 months ago. Originally, your son was listed as beneficiary. My stomach tightened. Originally? 3 weeks ago, Wolf changed it to himself. The room spun. Does Margaret know? No. He told her inheritance was wiped out by medical costs. She believes she's penniless. So, she thought I was ruining myself to save her when she actually had millions. Exactly, Robert said quietly. And there's more. I've been investigating Wolf's past. This isn't his first time. He opened another folder. Karen Ellis, 2018, divorced real estate investor, ovarian cancer, he managed her care. She died 8 months later, he inherited $12 million. Before that, Rachel Porter, 2016, pharma executive with lymphoma. Same story. Power of attorney. Asset transfers. Death within a year. $23 million to Wolf. You're saying, this is his pattern? It appears to be his business, Robert replied grimly. He targets wealthy, sick women, isolates them, gains control of their money, and waits. I felt sick. How many? 4 confirmed. Maybe more. He leaned in. Henry, your wife isn't just sick, she's in real danger. What do you mean? I mean Wolf's been discouraging aggressive treatment, urging hospice care, to speed things along. You think he wants her dead? I think he's done it before. The world tilted. Around us, people laughed over lattes while my life came apart. What should I do? Tell Margaret everything. Tonight. Before Wolf realizes we know. She'll believe it. She's already questioning him, asking about missing statements, false expenses. She even asked me to audit her accounts yesterday. Robert closed his briefcase. One more thing, the experimental therapy at Johns Hopkins. What about it? It's already paid for. Out of her trust. Paid for? Yes. Wolf authorized it weeks ago, but told the hospital to hold off informing her. He wanted to take credit for finding the funds, to play the savior. My hands trembled. Margaret had $90 million. Wolf was a predator disguised as a healer. And the treatment that could save her was already funded, with her own money. When do we tell her? Tonight. Tomorrow might be too late. That evening, I found her sitting upright, color returning to her cheeks for the first time in months. "Henry," she said, "Robert told me some things. I don't know what to believe." "Sit down," I said. The chair beside her bed had become my home over the years. "You deserve the truth. I need to tell you what I've learned too," she said, pulling a thick folder from her bedside drawer. "When I moved in with Adrian, I thought I was helping everyone. You were killing yourself for me, 3 jobs, no rest. I couldn't stand it. He offered stability and resources. It made sense then. What changed? I started asking questions, about my father's trust, about why I never saw the bills. He always said he'd handle it. But last month, when I pressed, he told me the fund was gone. Bad investments. Nothing left." Her voice hardened. "That was a lie. You had millions," I whispered. "Yes. 90 of them, untouched. And all that time, you were starving yourself to pay for treatments my money could have covered 100 times over." Her anger was sharp but steady. "He took out a life policy too. Said it was for Ethan, responsible estate planning. But Robert found the forms. He changed the beneficiary 3 weeks ago, after learning the cancer had spread. He wanted you dead," I said, my throat tight. "He was counting on it. He pushed me away from every treatment that could have saved me," she continued. "Told me chemotherapy was too harsh, radiation too much, immunotherapy too risky. He was sabotaging you," I said. She nodded. "And Robert showed me proof. He's done this before, 4 other women. All rich, all sick, all dead within 18 months. Adrian inherited every time." The room felt smaller, airless. The monitors hummed their rhythm like an accusation. "What are you going to do?" I asked. "I'm going to live," she said. "I'm paying for the aggressive therapy myself. And as for Adrian Wolf, he's about to learn that betting against me was the worst mistake of his life." She reached into her drawer again, producing legal documents. "I've already started fixing it, new will, new power of attorney, new beneficiaries." Then she looked at me, calm but fierce. "I called Ethan today." My heart sank. "What did you say?" "I told him to come to Denver. Tomorrow. We're having a family meeting, about his inheritance, and about the truth. And Henry," she whispered, gently taking my hand. "I want you there when I tell him everything, the truth about Adrian, about the money, and what I've decided to do with the rest of my life. Are you certain you're ready for that?" I asked softly. "I've never been more ready for anything," she replied. The next morning, I sat in the hospital cafeteria, sipping burnt-tasting coffee and bracing myself for what was about to unfold. In less than a day, Ethan would walk into room 314 expecting to talk about his inheritance. Instead, he'd discover that everything he thought he understood about love, family, and fortune was a lie. At 11 a.m., Dr. Adrian Wolf arrived, earlier than usual. He strode into Margaret's room like he owned the place, tailored suit, flawless smile, completely unaware his world was about to crumble. "Good morning, darling," he said smoothly. "How are we feeling today?" Better? Much better, Margaret answered. Henry and I have been talking. Dr. Wolf glanced at me with thinly veiled annoyance. Perhaps Henry should give us some privacy. We have medical matters to discuss. Actually, she said calmly, Henry is staying. He'll be part of all my medical decisions from now on. Margaret, you're confused, he said sharply. I have power of attorney over your care. Had, she corrected. Past tense. She handed him a document. His face lost all color as he read it. This removes me as your power of attorney. It does, she said. But darling, you're not thinking clearly. The medication. I need someone who wants me to live making my decisions, she cut in. The room froze. Dr. Wolf stared at her like she'd spoken another language. What's that supposed to mean? It means I know about Karen Ellis, Rachel Porter, and the others. His perfect composure cracked. I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, I think you do, she said evenly. Just as you know about the $50 million life insurance policy you took out on me, one that named you as the beneficiary 3 weeks ago. Margaret, you're delusional. The chemo affects your clarity. No, she said coldly. For the first time, I see everything clearly. Adrian's eyes darted around the room like a trapped animal, at me, at her, at the door. If you'll excuse me, he muttered, I have other patients to see. No, I said quietly. You have federal agents to meet. They'll be contacting you this afternoon. He bolted, literally ran, leaving his briefcase behind. Margaret sat back against her pillows. Well, she said after a moment, that went smoother than I expected. Ethan arrived the next evening with Claire, both dressed to impress and wearing expressions sharp enough to cut glass. They swept into the room like royalty inconvenienced by commoners. Mom, you look, Ethan stopped, startled. You look great. The treatment's working. It's working beautifully, she said. Sit down. We need to talk about your inheritance. Ethan's eyes brightened like a kid on Christmas morning. Finally. I've been thinking, we should discuss trust structures to minimize tax burdens. Claire's family attorney suggested offshore. Ethan, Margaret interrupted firmly. Stop talking and listen. The steel in her voice silenced everyone, even me. The fragile, apologetic woman was gone. What sat before us now was strength reborn. There are things about your grandfather's estate you never knew. Things Adrian kept from all of us. She gestured to the chair beside her. Sit. Ethan obeyed reluctantly. Claire stayed standing, scrolling through her phone. You know about the $92 million? Margaret asked. Of course, he said. That money's been our family's foundation for years. And when your father was working 3 jobs to pay my medical bills, what did you think? Ethan hesitated. Honestly? I thought Dad was overreacting. I assumed Adrian's, insurance covered most of it. You assumed wrong, she said quietly. She pulled out bank statements Robert Langston had uncovered, proof of systematic theft. Every dollar your father spent came from his own pocket. Every loan, every job, every sacrifice, while I had enough money to afford the best care in the world. Ethan stared at the papers, dazed. I don't understand. Adrian stole it. All of it. He's been draining my accounts for nearly 2 years, while letting your father destroy himself trying to save me. Claire, a pharmaceutical heiress, leaned closer. Some of these transfers are huge, millions. When did this start? 18 months ago. While I lived under his roof. While he controlled my finances. While he told me I was broke. Ethan's jaw tightened. Are you saying Dr. Wolf's a thief? I'm saying he's a predator who targets wealthy, terminally ill women, she replied. He's done it to at least 4 others. And he took out a life insurance policy betting I wouldn't survive the year. That's insane, Ethan said. Is it? She asked. Think back, every time a doctor recommended aggressive treatment, what did he say? Ethan froze. He said it was too risky, too expensive, that you should focus on quality of life. Exactly. He was steering me toward dying, because my death meant his payday. Claire set down the papers. Ethan, this is serious. He defrauded your mother. There's more, Margaret said. I've rewritten my will. Changed all my beneficiaries. Adrian is out. I've given power of attorney to someone who truly cares for me. Ethan leaned forward. Who? Your father. The air went still. Mom, that's insane. He's broke. He lives in a studio and works minimum wage. Because he spent everything he had saving my life, she said quietly. He sacrificed his future while I unknowingly sat on $90 million. Ethan stood abruptly. You're being emotional, irrational. I'm being grateful, she said. After 24 years of marriage, I finally see who's been loyal to me. Mom, Dad doesn't know how to handle that kind of money. Maybe not, she said. But he'll use it the same way he's used everything else, to protect the people he loves. Claire glanced at the documents. Ethan, she's made up her mind. He shook his head. This changes everything, our wedding, our plans, our future. Maybe that's the point, Margaret murmured. The will was read on March 3, 2022, 1 week after Margaret Caldwell passed peacefully in her sleep. She left this world the way she lived her last days, surrounded by love. I sat on one side of her hospital bed, Ethan on the other, holding her hands as she slipped away at 4:17 a.m. on a quiet Tuesday. In those final weeks, something changed in Ethan. The expensive suits vanished, replaced by simple jeans and sweaters. The arrogance faded, replaced by humility. Dad, he said the night before she died, sitting with me over bitter coffee, I owe you an apology. You don't owe me anything, son. Yes, I do. I owe you everything, and I threw it away because I was ashamed of us. Ashamed of being normal. Why did money matter so much to you? I asked. He looked down, eyes weary. Do you remember when I was 12 and the Hendersons invited me to Aspen? Their mansion, the cars, the staff, it was perfect. When I came home, our little rental felt like a cage. I was embarrassed by the old Honda, by our coupons, by being ordinary. You never said anything. Because I loved you, he said, his voice breaking. But I also resented you, for not giving me what they had. He paused, staring into his cup. When I got to college, I swore I'd never feel that way again. I'd never be poor. Never be embarrassed. And it worked. I got rich. I had everything I wanted, except peace. He looked at me then, eyes glistening. Watching you with Mom these past 2 weeks, how you cared for her, how you forgave her, it made me realize, that's what real wealth looks like. The way you forgave me, even after I told you to disappear from our lives, I'll never forget that, Dad. He looked at me then, really looked at me, and for the first time in a decade, I saw my little boy again. It hit me that I'd spent 10 years running from the best parts of myself, the parts that came from him. The funeral was small. Maybe 40 people, the ones who truly knew Margaret, not the socialites Dr. Wolf had surrounded her with. Dr. Wolf himself didn't show. He was too busy meeting with federal investigators, charges that would later put him behind bars for 23 years. Claire Donovan came, sitting quietly in the back, looking uneasy. She'd ended her engagement to Ethan 2 days after learning he wouldn't inherit $90 million. Turns out, some love stories are written in ink that washes away the moment the money disappears. 3 days after the funeral, we met at Robert Langston's office, dark wood, leather chairs, the kind of place where legacies are weighed in ink and signatures. Ethan seemed nervous as we walked in, not thrilled or eager, just uneasy. Dad, he said, straightening his collar. "Whatever Mom decided, I understand now." "I get it." "What do you mean?" I asked. "I mean I finally learned the difference between earning something, and deserving it." He adjusted his tie, not a designer one this time, just a simple blue tie from Target. "And Dad," he added, "I hope you can forgive me, for everything." "I already have, son." The room felt smaller this time, more human. Just family, and the people who mattered. Robert entered right on time, carrying his worn leather portfolio and that same quiet professionalism he always had. But when he looked at me, there was something new in his eyes: respect. "Gentlemen," he began, "we're here to read the last will and testament of Margaret Caldwell, dated February 20th, 2022. Ethan took a deep breath and reached for my hand. Whatever was coming, we'd face it together. Robert opened the portfolio with the care of a man who had delivered both heartbreak and miracles for 30 years. "We're here to read the last will and testament of Margaret Caldwell." He unfolded the notarized pages, legal words that would reshape the rest of our lives. "I, Margaret Caldwell, being of sound mind and body, declare this to be my final will." Ethan sat perfectly still, no longer the heir apparent, just a son waiting to see how his mother had weighed his heart. First, Robert read, "I must acknowledge the betrayal I uncovered before my death. Dr. Adrian Wolfe stole from me, manipulated my treatment, and sought to profit from my passing through false insurance claims. I trust the authorities will find everything they need to ensure justice, not just for me, but for every woman he exploited." Robert paused. Everyone knew. Wolfe's crimes had already splashed across the Denver Post. 6 victims. 200 million stolen. Second, Robert continued, "To my son, Ethan Caldwell, I leave $1 million from my personal accounts, along with this letter." He handed Ethan a sealed envelope. Ethan's hands trembled as he took it. "Ethan," Robert read on, "you chose wealth over love, image over integrity, pride over family. But you are young, and youth can still change course. Use this money not to buy things that fade, but to build a life rooted in who you are. Your father never stopped believing in you. Neither have I. $1 million, a fortune to most. But Ethan had been expecting 92 million. And yet, all I saw on his face was peace. To Henry Caldwell, my former husband, the only man who ever loved me without condition, I leave the remainder of my estate." Robert unfolded another document, thick with property listings and valuations. "This includes my 40% stake in Caldwell Medical Properties, valued at $62 million. My legitimate life insurance policy through Mutual of Denver, $50,000. And all funds recovered from Dr. Wolfe's hidden accounts, $30 million. The numbers didn't feel real. $92 million, enough to rewrite a lifetime. But sitting there, it felt like someone else's story." Robert kept reading. "Henry, you gave up everything for me, your work, your health, your future. You exhausted yourself while I lived beside a man who was stealing from me. You loved me when I didn't deserve it and stayed when I told you to leave." My eyes blurred. Her words cut through the air like music from a world beyond reach. "You sold everything to keep me alive. You gave up your career, your savings, your dreams, even your bond with our son, not because you hoped for reward, but because love was enough. Use this money, Henry, not for yourself, but to give hope to others like us. Remind the world that love unmeasured is the only kind that lasts." Robert paused, voice softening. "And if you choose to forgive our son, help him understand that wealth and worth are not the same. He is a good man who simply lost his way." The room was silent, except for Ethan's quiet sobs. "There's one final matter," Robert said. "Mrs. Caldwell established the Caldwell Family Foundation, funded with $20 million to help families facing catastrophic illness." He handed me a folder marked Caldwell Foundation. "The foundation is to be managed jointly by Henry and Ethan Caldwell, provided both agree." I looked at Ethan. His face streaked with tears, but his eyes clear. "Dad," he whispered, "I'd be honored to do this with you." "Of course," I said. "You're my son." Robert smiled faintly. "There's one last paragraph Mrs. Caldwell wished me to read aloud. To anyone who hears our story, love cannot be measured in currency, but respect should always be earned. Henry never asked for anything except the chance to love his family. That's the only inheritance that matters. The only wealth that endures." Ethan reached for my hand. "Dad, I want to spend the rest of my life proving Mom was right about me." "You already are, son," I told him. Outside, the Denver sun carried on shining. Cars moved, lives continued, ordinary moments flowing past extraordinary loss. Inside that office, two men who'd lost themselves found their way home again. And $92 million wasn't the ending, it was only the beginning. 8 months later, I stood inside the Caldwell Family Foundation office, reading grant requests from families facing the same impossible choices I once had. It wasn't a grand building, just modest rooms filled with hope. We'd already helped 93 families, paying for treatments, caregivers, housing, and second chances. Each success felt like one small victory against the cruel math of the world. Ethan walked in that Thursday afternoon, jeans, simple shirt, no trace of the man who once lived for status. "Dad," he said, "the Martinez family called. Elena's leukemia is in remission." I smiled. "That's wonderful." He nodded. "The father said you saved his daughter's life." "We saved her life." Ethan had been with the foundation since May, refused a salary, lived off that $1 million while finding his purpose again. "Dad, can I ask you something?" "Always." "Do you ever regret it? Giving it all away?" I thought for a moment. "You mean not keeping the money?" He nodded. "Ethan, what do you think made me happier, working 3 jobs to pay for your mother's care, or knowing she was alive?" "Knowing she was alive," he said softly. "And what makes me happy now, having 90 million in the bank, or knowing we're keeping families together?" He smiled, a genuine one. "Keeping families together. That's the difference between having wealth and having worth," I said. "Your mother taught me that, even if it took her dying for me to see it." We spent the rest of the afternoon calling hospitals, reviewing files, and helping strangers who reminded us what love truly costs, and what it's worth. When evening came, Ethan packed his laptop. "Dad," he said, "want to grab dinner? Nothing fancy, just father and son." "I'd love that." As we walked out into the golden Denver sunset, he whispered, "I'm proud to be your son." "I've always been proud to be your father," I said. The sun dipped behind the Rockies, turning the sky into gold and violet, the same colors I'd watched from a hospital window years ago. Sometimes the real inheritance isn't money. It's becoming who you were always meant to be. It's realizing that love, real, unconditional love, always wins in the end. And if you're lucky, you get a second chance to prove that wealth and worth were never the same thing at all.